In Daniel, the 2nd chapter, we see down to the feet and toes part potter's clay and part iron. Iron, we all know, is Europe, the Holy Roman Empire. What is the potter's clay? Well, Jeremiah, the 18th chapter, verse 6 makes it plain that the potter's clay is the house of Israel. Now that is that one key that will unlock all Bible prophecy. Who is the house of Israel? Now we all know the house of Judah is the Jews. Well, what about the lost 10 tribes of Israel? We've been saying for years, and we have been proving it. We proved it on our website, in our articles, our booklets, that we, the United States, the British Commonwealth, we are the house of Israel. And when we understand that, then we see Daniel 2, the house of Israel and the iron, Europe, in an alliance together is a perfect fulfillment of NATO. And NATO is the king of the North. And who heads up NATO? Who founded NATO? The United States of America. So the king of the North is the president of the United States of America. We show you in these booklets that I'm going to offer you that Daniel the 11th chapter, verse 40 through 43, when we look at it with NATO being the king of the North, I know many of the churches of God still feel that this is going to be the beast power that's going to rise, and he's going to come into the Middle East and do all these things in the Middle East. But we prove that that is not so, because when we look at Daniel 45, it says, he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. And this happens before the tribulation. But plainly, the beast comes to his end after the tribulation. We'll read in Revelation, the 17th chapter, verses 12 through about 14, where Christ destroys the beast. So this is before the tribulation, he comes to his end. The beast comes to his end after the tribulation. When we get down to the feet and toes, we can understand that NATO, the potter's clay phase, he comes to his end before the tribulation, and then the miry clay phase of Daniel 2 comes to his end at the end of the tribulation, at the second coming of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. So we know that Daniel 40 through 45 is NATO. And we prove it to you in this booklet. Two booklets I want to offer you. Number one, the Middle East in Prophecy. We go through with you Daniel the 11th chapter in great detail, all the prophecies, and this is the longest prophecy in the Bible, and we show you its fulfillments in history, in the apostles, medieval times, and World War II, and the Gulf War and the war on terrorism. It's all here in this booklet, The Middle Eastern Prophecy. And the second booklet that you must have if you want to understand Bible prophecy, the United States and the British Commonwealth in prophecy.
I said, well, guilty.
Download your free booklet, Is There Really a Hellfire? At britishisrael.ca.
Booklet, we go through Daniel the 11th chapter, and it says, Tidings, verse 44, out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. That's the king of the north. Now, if tidings or reports are coming out of the east and the north, then obviously the king of the north is in the north and in the west. And in the west, we see the Western powers, Europe, and Northern Europe, which are the Hebrew nations, and who leads those Hebrew and European nations, but the United States of America in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the potter's clay and the iron. And we also show you that these two words, north and east, we show you in other prophecies, other scriptures, that this means Old Persia. And Old Persia consists of Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran. And when we look at the war on terror, which is what this prophecy is saying, he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and to utterly annihilate many. Well, we got reports out of there in 2000, 99, 2000, 2001, Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, Old Persia, threatening to bomb, Western cities, the USS Cole, and of course we've seen what's happened in 2001 with the bombing of the Twin Towers, the airplanes going into the Twin Towers. And it was all because of reports out of the east and out of the north. And it troubled us. And so we went out with great fury to destroy and to utterly annihilate many. Remember when the towers fell? The fury of the Western nations. And they got so furious they invoked the Article 5 of their charter, the NATO charter, that says if you attack one, you attack us all. And there went the United States and its Western allies into Afghanistan and to engage in the war on terror. So he went out with great fury to destroy and to utterly annihilate many. Then comes verse 45, and most biblical commentaries will tell you that he goes into the Middle East, into Israel, because of tidings out of the east and out of the north. Now, when we look at it, Afghanistan really they don't have a stake in the Middle East. They don't care about the Middle East. Pakistan, same thing. But Iran, which is part of Old Persia, Iran has a huge stake in the Middle East. They have terrorist cells in Lebanon and Syria. They are allies with Syria. In Palestine there, the Gaza Strip, in Egypt. And they want to dominate the Middle East. It's no secret. They want to dominate the Middle East and kick Israel out of the Middle East and control it all. So these reports out of the east and out of the north, which makes the king of the north, NATO, come into Israel, these reports are obviously coming out of Iran. And we have been saying it for years. And what dominates the news today? The potential for Iran to have a nuclear arsenal. And if that doesn't trouble us, I don't know what does. I mean, for Iran to have a nuclear arsenal, obviously the Israelis are troubled by it. The Americans are troubled by it. The French, the Germans, everybody's troubled by it. So these reports out of the east and the north are troubling us. And eventually, it says, he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas and in the glorious holy mountain. That is Jerusalem. That is the next great prophetic event that's going to happen. The occupation of Israel by the NATO forces. Now, in Luke, the 21st chapter, Jesus spoke of this occupation as well. In verse 20, it says, in Luke 21:20, it says, when you shall see Jerusalem encompassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. So here, just like Daniel, the 11th chapter, verse 45, we see the NATO forces occupying Jerusalem, and he says, know that the desolation is near. Now let's go back to Daniel, the 12th chapter, 11th chapter rather, verse 45, that says, and he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. NATO will collapse. And when this happens, it says, at that time, when NATO collapses, shall Michael stand up, the great prince that stands for the children of your people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. The great tribulation, the abomination, the desolation rather, that Jesus spoke of, comes. So NATO will collapse. Then comes the last resurrection of the Roman Empire, of the miry clay phase and the iron. And it says in Revelation, the 11th chapter, verses 1 through 3, that Jerusalem is trodden down by the beast power. Jesus also said, Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles till the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And at that time, it is the great tribulation, the time of Jacob's trouble. And Jacob is the United States, the British Commonwealth of Nations, and of course the Jews as well, and the peoples of northwestern Europe. When NATO collapses, we see Obadiah and Obadiah's prophecy that the Americans and the British are going to go it alone. They will still be in Jerusalem, and at that time, the beast is going to rise and is going to trodden down Jerusalem and take Israel and Judah away. And it speaks of the time of their distress, when strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem. Even you, speaking of Edom, which is modern-day Turkey, were as one of them. It says, thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. And then it says, you have rejoiced over the children of Judah. So notice Jacob and Judah in Israel. So NATO will collapse. America will go it alone and stay in Jerusalem. The beast is going to rise and carry away the forces of Israel and Judah away in the slavery and captivity. And that is the Great Tribulation. I'm going to show you another prophecy in Jeremiah the 30th chapter and verse 14. It says, all your lovers, it says lovers, but it should read allies, as the Moffat translation has it. All your allies have forgotten you, they seek you not. Just like Daniel the 11th chapter, verse 45, it says, he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. And who's going to give that deadly blow to the NATO alliance? Well, none other than China. In Numbers the 24th chapter, verse 24, it says, the ships shall come, notice it's a naval attack, from the coasts of Kittim. And Kittim we have identified as China. China is spending multiple billions of dollars to upgrade their military and their navy. And now we see the United States a few months ago announcing an Asian pivot of concentrating their military in the South China Sea because of China, because of Korea. And China does not want the United States in the South China Sea. They want to patrol their own waters. They don't need a foreign country to patrol their waters. They want to do it themselves. And it's escalating till eventually, it says in Numbers the 24th chapter, verse 24, the ship shall come from the coast of Kittim, and it shall afflict Asher and Eber. Asher being the modern-day Germans, Eber being the Hebrew nations. Obviously, it is the NATO Alliance. And we also have our booklet, China and Prophecy, if you want to take a look at that on our website as well. So the focus now is on the Middle East, on specifically Jerusalem. When we see Jerusalem occupied by the NATO forces, then we know the desolation, which is the Great Tribulation, is near.